Hello, this is Steve Hultquist with RedSeal. This is the first of an 8-part video series on certifying your network with RedSeal. In this video, we'll take a look at verifying your network device configurations. RedSeal imports network device configurations either directly from devices, from a configuration management database, or even, as I'm doing here, simply from a file share. As it reads in the text of the configuration files, it checks the configurations to see if various industry best practices and potentially your own desired best practices are followed. For example, you may choose to make sure that your banners are set correctly, or you may have much more complex templates and you want to make sure that all of your devices meet those requirements. As you saw during this import, as each file was read, you began to see that there were listed over here some issues that RedSeal discovered with the configurations. Now that all 24 files have been read in, I can go look at the complete list that RedSeal discovered. This is the list of all of the checks that apply to any of the devices that I just imported. Obviously, some device types have different checks than others. It simply depends on what the devices are capable of doing. As an example, this third one from the top, unencrypted passwords, shows that 2 files failed this check. So here are 2 routers, Core 1 iOS and Core 2 iOS, both of which are showing a failure for this particular check. By right-clicking and selecting Show in Config File, I can open the config file that I imported and see highlighted here the line that implements this particular function that is not a best practice. In this case, turning off the encryption of passwords. Obviously not a good idea. You see at the bottom of the configuration file a list of other best practice check violations, and by clicking on these you can jump around the configuration file to see them. You'll see that some of them, however, like, IP source routing is enabled by default, there's no violation location. And when you select it, it doesn't jump around the configuration file. This is because it's on by default. How do you turn it off? Well, by right-clicking and selecting Show the Details, you can see that in order to remediate this, you need to add no IP source route to this configuration file. Thank you for joining me for this, the first in our 8-part series on certifying your network with RedSeal. In this particular video, we took a look at what it takes to verify your network device configurations.